the whole of human history is full of secrets and mysteries. In fact, even now, in the age of science and technology, our whole world order is causing thousands of questions, many of which cannot be fully answered by scientists. Time Puzzle crew tries to uncover some of those mysteries surrounding the mysterious places of Kazakhstan.
The South Kazakhstan region is a place that has been inhabited since ancient times, and it still keeps inexhaustible treasures of history and spirituality. The Great Silk Road passed through this territory. Large hearths of culture and philosophy arose here, many of which became later real sacred places of the country. This is the land where ancient legends bizarrely twisted with national traditions and real historical facts. What in fact is concealed behind numerous legends which cover mysteriously the sacred places of South Kazakhstan? So it turned out that in the South Kazakhstan region one can see, find, meet some artifacts of all world religions that humanity could come up with. Enigmatic Ismail Atta and his tomb. Different sources name different dates of building of the mausoleum from the 11th to the 15th century. What is hidden in the sacred land? The South Kazakhstan region is really an area where the saints are everywhere. By Jibek B, Damalak Ana, mythical characters or real historical figures. There are many legends among Kazakh people, especially in the southern regions of our country, and there everyone knows about Baidi Begbi and Damalakana. There are also many different stories and legends about them. How sacred places help the pilgrims, and this miracle occurred in front of our eyes, really. Watch all this in this episode of the Time Puzzle. The South Kazakhstan region is a real treasury of the country's cultural and historical heritage. Most of the monuments connected with the history of Kazakhstan are on this territory. Most of them are mausoleums and mazars, which are surrounded by many legends and myths. Hello, it is the Time Puzzle and me, Sergei Alexyanak. Our film crew went to South Kazakhstan. It is a region located within the eastern part of the Turan lowland and the western spurs of the Tian Shan. In its flat territory, there are the sands of Kizilkum, the steppes of Shadara and Mezashul, the deserts of Moin Kum and Bet Bagdala. The Karatal mountain range stretches through the middle of the region. The largest river of these places is the Great Sirdarya, called the Queen of Central Asia. The regional center of the South Kazakhstan region is the city of Shymkent. Its first written mention dates back to the year 1366, when Tamerlane's historian Ali Yazdi wrote that this year, during his first Mogulish campaign, Amir Timur found his military transport carts near the village of Chimkent, near the town of Sayram. But the city itself and the places surrounding it begin their history much earlier.
У нас найдены мавзолеи христианские, манихейские.
We have found Christian mausoleums, Manichaean. I mean that I can't confirm it because we will dig further. It is still unknown what we are going to find. It is still unknown what we are going to find. But I believe that this region, it was inhabited approximately 5 to 6 centuries before AD. Naturally, there are some buildings. They made some gold items, pottery, some bellows of the smithy, so there was some kind of culture. Bakijan Ashibayev is an architect, an eminent culture figure of the Republic of Kazakhstan. A man contributed a lot to develop the town planning of the region and of Shymkent directly. It was a building culture. It was people who left, and so I believe that this was a birth of the architecture. At least in our Middle Asia region. When they started building temples for the departed, they began to build temples and for livings. It happened that first of all the development of architecture touched precisely the exaltation of places where, according to legends, there were burials of special people. They are called saints. This tradition is rooted in the deep past. One of our guides to the history of southern Kazakhstan is the famous journalist and local historian Kenesbai Ismailov, who for many years carefully studied everything related to this region, from ancient legends to modern research.
Так получилось, что в Южно-Казахстанской области можно увидеть, найти.
So it turned out that in the South Kazakhstan region, one can see, find, meet some artifacts of all world religions that humanity could come up with. We have places where you can find traces of the presence of Buddhism, the Christianity of the first wave, the so-called Nestorianism. Islam was the first to come to our region. It was in the 8th century. And of course, there are a lot of holy places connected with that period. A lot of holy burial places, mausoleums, mazars where people of the first Islamic times, of the first Islamic wars are buried. The South Kazakhstan region is really an area where the saints are everywhere. The Kazakhs have a saying,
Краем, где святые на каждом шагу.
there are 30 saints in Ortura, 1,000 saints in Turkestan, and there are innumerable number of saints in Sayram, and the most holy of saints is Aristan Bab.
И самый святой из святых — это Арыстан Баб.
Mausoleum of Aristan Bab is located near the city of Turkestan, where another well-known monument of architecture and spirituality is located.
Самым грандиозным, понятно, считается у нас это Хаджи Ахмеда Исави. Почему он там появился?
It is clear that the most grandiose is Mausoleum of Kaji Ahmed Yasawi. Why did it appear there? You know that when Timur went on a campaign against China in one of his first attempts, he had to conquer this local population somehow. And because he had such an advisor, the teacher who was a famous Sufi, who was the continuer of the teachings of the Yasawi. Yasawi lived somewhere between 10th and 11th centuries. And now when he made such a gesture, when he saw that to the small grave there was a grave, the crypt, and it was so small, let's say a small shrine, well, maybe 10 to 10 meters, well, and a maximum height of 5 to 6 meters. And anyway, people used to go there. I mean, all people worshipped him. And when he built this Ahmed Yasawi mosque, he practically won the devotion of the people who lived in this whole district. Tamerlan, or Amir Timur, is one of the greatest military leaders in world history. But he was not only a conqueror. Amir Timur is described in the annals of civilization as a man who did a lot for the development of culture and urban development. In the village of Turbant, not far from Shymkent, there is a small mausoleum complex. Its main decoration is one of the oldest buildings in the South Kazakhstan region. It is amazing in its beauty and unusual architecture, the Mausoleum of Ismail Ata. Despite the uniqueness in Soviet times, this monument was completely devoid of the attention of historians. This mausoleum was in such a half-ruined state, but it was the same as now. Yes, it is restored, it is well made, but the main backbone of this mausoleum is that ancient mausoleum. And that is why Ismail Ata, personally for me, is an invaluable object for its historical architectural plan that exists in Kazakhstan. The Mausoleum of Ismail Ata has been under state protection since 1982, and travel agencies consider it as one of the most revered places. But it is not very popular among the people because at the time of the Soviet Union, politics forbade the dissemination of information of this kind. There were times when this mausoleum remained completely unattended. But after gaining independence, this complex is becoming more and more famous among the people, and the local population deeply esteems this place. I remember since the time of the Soviet Union, I was born in this district. My grandfather was the imam of our village, and he, together with other elders, came to the mosque of Ismail Ata and performed Friday namaz.
Менің атам бір ауылдың имамы болатын. Сонда мынау жұма намазын осы Исмаил Ата мешітіне барып оқыды. Жаңағы бүкіл Қазығұрт ауданының қариялары осы Исмаил Ата мешітінде жаңағы жұма намазын оқыды.
Different sources name different dates of building of the mausoleum from the 11th to the 15th century, but traditions connect this building with the name of Amir Timur, and he lived in the 14th century.
Основная часть мавзолеев, основная часть вот этих, они были построены в период.
The main part of the mausoleums was built in the period before Tamerlan era and post-Tamerlan era. The fact is that Tamerlan conquered Khorasan, the northern part of Iran. He took out all the masters from there, all the masters who were there, and built their cities.
Әмір Темір жалпы Ясауия тарихатына үлкен жаңағы құрметпен қараған. Бұл кісі өзі хари болған, діндар болған адам.
The mausoleum was built during the time of Tamerlan. As you know, the great conqueror patronized Sufism. He was a pious man. He built the mausoleum of the Khoja Ahmed Yasawi, his teacher Aristan Bab, and other religious figures who represented this trend. And Ismail Ata was one of these people.
Осы Исмаил Ата кесенесін Әмір Темір бұйрығымен орнатылған.
There are some speculations which include the construction of the mausoleum of Ismail Ata to an earlier period, long before the 14th century.
Самый первый объект в этом комплексе, сам мавзолей Исмаила Ата.
The very first object in this complex, the mausoleum of Ismail Ata, I think it's still applied to the period of the late 12th, early 13th century. First, an unusual architecture. The tent cover, which is practically not found on the territory of Kazakhstan, and it has never been seen anywhere else. We have a dome architecture, and there is a hipped roof. It's such an interesting cover, which can be related to the period of Karakhanids. This period is the end of the 12th century, when the Karakhanid Khanate is already beginning to degrade. Some legends unite Ismail Ata with Ahmed Yasawi by close kinship, and we know the years of life of this great absolutely exactly, from 1103 to 1166. Let's try to look into the depth of time and find out who was Ismail Ata. What myths and legends surround this person? According to one version, he was Ahmed Yasawi's uncle, and by another versions, he was Ahmed Yasawi's nephew. I was very much interested in different points of view, and I tried to bring a certain associative explanation to this whole thing. And I came to the conclusion that he was probably his uncle, and he was apparently one of Ahmed Yasawi's followers. And he preached Sufi Islam here in this region. Another interlocutor of the time puzzle is Kairat Anabayev, PhD in History, Associate Professor at the South Kazakhstan State Pedagogical Institute. He's a recognized expert on the history of the Middle Ages.
Исмаил Ата бұл Қазығұрт Қаратау өңіріндегі үлкен аңыздарға жаңағы арқау болған тұлға, тарихи тұлға.
There are many legends about Ismail Ata. He lived in the region of Kizigurt Karatau. People say that this historical personality adhered to the path of Yasawi. And he contributed to the development of Sufism. He came from a noble family. At the age of 20, he was captured with his family. He defended himself, but he was captured by his enemies. He had to graze sheep for 20 years. Then later, closer to 40, he went to Bukhara. There he received a good religious education. Now there is also an active mosque on the territory of the Ismail Atta complex. But the place is open to everyone. At the entrance there is the wooden gate of incredible beauty covered with Arabic script. It is almost 200 years old. Passing through them, you find yourself in a different time, being carried back centuries ago. This unusual feeling is also promoted by the legends surrounding this place and the personality of Ismail Atta himself. A native of the village of Turbat, Dastan Ulukajayev has been a member of the complex for several years and knows all the local stories and beliefs.
Комплекс Ismail Atta мешіті аталады. Bu yerde İsmail Atta, Cebrail Atta, Qo'shqor Atta keseneleri var. İsmail Atta bu endi misol uchun Qozog'istonda o'zine.
The complex is called Ismail Atta Mosque. Here are the mausoleums of Ismail Atta, Qo'shqor Atta and Cebrail Atta. Ismail Atta is considered one of the most authoritative saints in Kazakhstan. When the Jungars came here, they forced him to herd sheep. One of the Jungar warders noticed that Ismail Atta had driven the sheep into the pasture in the morning, and from morning till evening he sat and read books endlessly. He complained about this to the man who brought the boy to herd the sheep. He wanted to see everything himself and began to watch how Ismail grazes sheep. The man was extremely surprised. Despite the fact that the sheep weren't looked after, they are all well-groomed and healthy. He realized that a 16-year-old shepherd is not an ordinary person, since he manages such a miracle. Then he decided to free Ismail and even offered him to pick up one ram. But the young man said that he would remain shepherding until the spring, when a special lamb with a mark would be born, which he would take. Time passed. Spring came. All lambs were born with marks. The owner was very surprised at this spectacle and suggested that Ismail take all the lambs. But Ismail, according to the treaty, took only one lamb. Also, after gaining freedom, he went to Bukhara to study. Having graduated there, he came here to our village and began to spread Islam. And the books also say that he played a big role in popularizing the teachings of Islam. He did many good deeds for the people, became a saint. He approached Allah with his good deeds. But most likely the legend arose much later. After all, it mentions Jungars, and the years of the Jungarian invasion in southern Kazakhstan capture the period of 17th to 18th centuries. That is, several centuries after the death of Ismail Atta. There is another interesting legend associated with the name of the saint. This is also a grave. There is a stone with holes on it where pilgrims put coins. The ritual of offering the so-called sadaqah. But usually it is carried out in places where holy people rest. And so the question arises, why is this grave placed outside the cemetery and who lies here?
Существует легенда, когда Исмаил Ата обучился в Бухаре.
There is a legend. when Ismail Ata was educated in Bukhara in the seminary, he returned home. And he knocked at his door, and there was a certain man who pretended to be Ismail. He knocked, and that man asked, "Who are you?" He says, "I am Ismail, I came back." He says, "How comes you are Ismail? I am Ismail." And then Ismail came up with a challenge. He said, "Come out, and we'll check who of us is Ismail."
И на ком он сойдется, тот и есть Исмаил. А если
We will tie this belt, and the person who can wear it is Ismail. And if the person who is not Ismail puts it on, he immediately falls and dies. And the first to do so was Ismail. He tied his belt, and he could wear it. And when that man who pretended to be Ismail tied the belt on, he fell bleeding and died. And he is buried near the monument, and we can see a small white stone, and the legend says that right under this stone this man who pretended to be Ismail was buried. And his grave was built by the will of Ismail himself. He said, "Well, if this man wanted to be me, let his dust be here next door." As the employee of the complex, Dastan Ulukadjaev later explained, this stone does not need offerings. It is just a symbol of the mercy of a saint who forgave an impostor. Therefore, it is very important to study the history of the places that you are going to visit. Unfortunately, not all the mausoleums of the South Kazakhstan region were able to survive the centuries. Natural factors, destructive wars, or simply negligent attitude to spiritual monuments practiced during the years of the Soviet Union led to the loss of many sacred artifacts. These examples include modern buildings created in historical places associated with the legendary for the Kazakh people, Baydibek B and Domalak Ana.
Байдибек Ата, по одним сведениям, которые, мне кажется, более легендарны.
According to some information, Baydibek Ata, who seems to be more legendary, lived somewhere in the 8th to 9th century. According to other sources, he lived somewhere in the times of Ahmed Yasawi. And the third option, he lived in the time of Tamerlan. Of course, I am more impressed by the time of his life of the 8th to 9th century. The fact is that in the history there are reminiscences of those tribes that now form part of the Kazakhs, which are considered his descendants according to Shejire. But already in those days they seem to figure in historical records. And that's why I think that it is most likely that Baydibek Ata lived in the 8th, 9th centuries. Perhaps he was one of the leaders of the so-called Karluk tribes. This in order for our viewers to understand, these are the times when Islam came to our land and there was a famous battle of the Arab troops with the Chinese troops of Emperor Tang in Talas. The famous battle on the Talas River near the city of Atlak, near the modern city of Taraz, occurred in July of 751 between the troops of the Abbasid Caliphate, the Turesh Khanate and the army of the Tang China. It is described in the history as the Battle of the Talas River or the Atlak Battle. As a result of the battle, which lasted 5 days, even the hostile tribes opposed the age-old invader. The struggle against the common enemy became higher than internecine conflicts. Its result was the defeat of Chinese troops, which stopped further expansion into the region. And the name of Baydibek B is connected to the union of tribes. However, there are other information regarding the periods of his life.
Точных дат нет, но по всем, опять-таки, каким-то записям.
There are no exact dates, but again, for some records kept by Abai Shakarim, there is such information that Baydibek, he lived at the time somewhere around the 12th, 11th century. And in general, it was a man who regulated all issues concerning, we will say so, he was the chief customs officer, if we can say that way. That is, he followed the movement of the Silk Road for its security. As it turned out, there are modern historical studies on this topic. They call quite specific dates for the life of Baydibek B from 1356 to 1419.
Бәйдібек биге қатысты шежірелерге қарайтын болсақ, сонау батыс түрік қағаны естемей қағанның баласы Қарашадан тарайды.
According to legend, he is the son of Karash, who in turn was the son of Astemir, the ruler of the Western Turkey Khaganate.
Тарихи жады бұл аңыздарды бекерге сақтап қалған жоқ. Әрине олардың арасында үлкен жылдар, үлкен кісі есімдері, аттары жатқан болуы мүмкін. Бірақ Бәйдібек бидің жаңағы 14-ші ғасырдың тұлғасы ретінде мынау
Although these people lived at different times, the historical memory of the people preserved legends about them. In the 14th century, he united the tribes of Mogolistan and Kipchaks.
үлкен болғандығынан ол қазақ шежірелеріне ұлы жүздің ірі тұлғаларының бірі.
Thus influencing history. Scientists such as Aristov and Chokan Velikanov wrote about him. In their writings, they also recognized that such a historical personality existed.
ірі тарихи тұлға екендігі, ол анық екендігі халық аңыздарының негізінде тарихи шындықтың іздері жатқандығын ол кісілер өздерінің еңбектерінде атап көрсеткен.
Baydibek B is one of the most revered people not only of the South Kazakhstan region, but in all Kazakhstan. Now the district located near the city of Shymkent is named after him, and there at the foot of the Karatau Mountains, the saint is buried. At the moment, there is a very good solid mausoleum on the site of his burial, which is being visited quite often, especially by his descendants who revere him as a saint, which is a normal phenomenon for the Kazakh society. Mausoleum of Baydibek B is an architectural monument of regional importance. Its construction took 2 years and was completed in 1998. Building materials were brought from Tashkent, Taraz and Karatau. It is a yellow brick, white marble and red granite. The well-known Kazakhstan architect Gabit Sarıbayev developed a project for a new mausoleum built on the site of an ancient burial. The place is called the Baydibek B complex. There is one more located near it, 5 Holy Mothers. Another historical person is connected to Baydibek B. This is the great mother of the Kazakh people, Damalak Ana.
Қазақ халқында мынау аңызға толы аймақтардың бірі оңтүстік Қазақстан дейтін болсақ, оңтүстік Қазақстандағы
There are many legends among Kazakh people, especially in the southern regions of our country. And there everyone knows about Baydibek B and Damalak Ana.
Бәйдібек биді бөлек-бөлек алып қарастырып жүр. Мен айтар едім, бұлардың барлығы
There are also many different stories and legends about them. Some consider them separately, but in my opinion, we must understand that these mausoleums complement each other. They are two parts of one, because Baydibek B produced many offsprings from his 3 wives, Slandi, Zerib and Nurillah. Mausoleum of Damalak Ana is located near the city of Shymkent on the southern slope of the Karatau Mountains. According to legend, it was first built in 1456 by her grandson Dulat, who invited Abdullah Sherif from Bukhara for these purposes. He built a 4-tier dome mausoleum on the grave. The dates of construction indirectly confirm the version that Damalak Ana and Baydibek B lived during the 14th century. Unfortunately, the first construction wasn't preserved. The building to which pilgrims from all over the world are traveling today is our contemporary.
Я был свидетелем, как строили этот мавзолей. Дело в том, что мавзолей над Damalak Ana.
I witnessed how they built this mausoleum. The fact is that there was always the mausoleum over Domala Kana. Big, small, broke, rebuilt. There were earthquakes, there were floods. As they say, the landscape changed. Until 1957, as is known, there was a small mausoleum over the Domala Kana, and it was in such a dilapidated state. It is precisely known from the history that in 1957 this mausoleum was attempted to restore, but it did not work out. It was done wrong and it was completely lost. And so in the early 90s, the descendants of Domala Kana created a fund, a specialized fund that collected some money, and a great work was done. The modern mausoleum of Domala Kana was built in 1998 from the white stones brought here from Mangistau. Its height is 12 meters. There is a garden around the complex. The aroma of flowering roses fills the air, and the shade of trees gives a coolness and peace for people who come here to honor the memory of the great mother of Kazakhs. Legends retained her real name, Nurila. She was the third, younger wife of Baydibek B. People's beliefs say that Domala Kana was a special woman with incredible wisdom, and she was approached for advice in the most difficult disputes and issues. Moreover, the legends give her the gift of foreseeing the future. The great mother of the Kazakh people chose the place of her burial herself, relying on the will of the Most High. Another ancient legend tells about this. They say that before her death, Domala Kana said that it is not necessary to bury her near her husband. She asked to put her body on a white camel and sent to the steppe. Where he kneels, Domala Kana will find her eternal rest. Now the mausoleum of Domala Kana is one of the most revered monuments in southern Kazakhstan. People believe that real miracles happen here. The film crew of the Time Puzzle met pilgrims who come here for almost 10 years. They are a married couple, Alexander and Tatiana Rabinins. The fact that it is a miracle and it helps, probably we experienced it more on ourselves and on the people who drove here, whom we traveled with. A lot of, well, really, that's how we talked, not that by faith show a miracle. And this miracle occurred in front of our eyes, really. People who came for help asked. While they did not believe, we saw how they were cured. I had big problems with health. She's the witness. It was useless to deal with the doctors. Well, literally for 6 months of traveling, I fixed it all. Everyone comes here. As far as I know, there were German people, people from far abroad and near. Russians often go to our places because they feel this too. From Astrakhan, from Yekaterinburg, from everywhere. They have already heard, they know. The reasons leading people to the mausoleum can be very different, but many pilgrims travel in the hope that the great saint will help bring their prayers to the Most High. Moreover, people of different religions and confessions come here, so we can see the authority of Domala Kana. Nowadays, the monument of Baydibek B, erected in 2012, is the main attraction of Shymkent. The author of the project was Nasir Rustamov, and one of the initiators was Bakirjan Asherbayev. The monument is located on one of the highest points of the city, the elevations in the northern part at 220 meters. A special mound was specially made there, on which a pedestal with a 10-meter figure of Baydibek made of forged copper was installed. The total height of the monument is 23 meters, which makes it the largest in Kazakhstan. And this is another confirmation of the importance of the sacred places which were anciently revered by the people and the history of the people behind them.
Ұлы дала өркениеті деген ұғымның қазір ғылымға ене бастағанына да шамалы ғана уақыт өтті. Бұл дала өркениеті деген
Such concepts as the civilization of the Great Steppe appeared relatively recently. Science based on Eurocentric views inspired us that the whole civilization was born in the West. This is not true. We must perceive the legends and traditions of the Great Steppe as historical, reliable information or sources. Of course, they will have to be compared with other data. And then we can shed light on the life of such historical personalities like Baydibek Baba, Ismail Ata and Damalak Ana. And there will be scientifically grounded data about them, when they lived and who they were. We visited only a small part of the mausoleums of the South Kazakhstan region. All of them are connected with real historical figures and surrounded by legends and myths. And only now they begin to reveal their secrets to us. It was the Time Puzzle and me, Sergey Alexyanek.